Ghost of Yotei is finally here, and while similar to its predecessor, Ghost of Tsushima, the game ups the ante in a lot of ways to create an even more reactive world for players to dive into. While there are plenty of changes Ghost of Yotei has made to Tsushima's formula, we've managed to compile a list of all of the biggest ones, which range from new weapons to wolf companions and even its open-ended design. These are 8 of the biggest changes from Ghost of Tsushima to Ghost of Yotei. In Ghost of Tsushima, Jin usually fought on his own with only a handful of exceptions. However, in Ghost of Yotei, Atsu is frequently joined by wolves to fight alongside her. The wolves help take the pressure off in combat, allowing you to juggle larger groups of enemies. They'll frequently grab enemies by the arm, leaving them wide open for you to slice up while their guard is down. Wolves can also join you in standoffs, allowing you to take down double the number of Saito's goons at the start of an encounter. As a result, it makes the prospect of doing a standoff much more enticing, since you'll be able to pick off a significantly larger number of enemies from the jump. Your wolf companions won't be by your side all the time in Ghost of Yotei, but if you spend the time to find wolf dens and complete the quests tied to them, you'll be able to put points into the wolf skill tree, and they'll start appearing more often to give you a hand. One of the early skills we'd recommend getting is the wolf rescue skill at the start of the summon branch of the tree, which occasionally summons a wolf to save you from being killed if you lose all your health. Unfortunately, however, there are no skills in the tree that let you pet the wolves whenever you want, so you'll just need to be satisfied with petting the foxes. Ghost of Yotei introduces the shamisen, a guitar-like instrument that Atsu has played since she was a child. While Jin has the flute to play in Ghost of Tsushima, Atsu's shamisen provides the player with a lot more benefits. Jin's flute was able to change weather conditions in Ghost of Tsushima, but that was it. The shamisen gives Atsu similar abilities, but allows you to track undiscovered shrines, hot springs, and bamboo-cutting locations by blowing the wind in the direction toward them. Take note that you won't have the shamisen's guiding abilities right from the start of Ghost of Yotei, but after you learn a few songs by completing side quests and finding other shamisen players, you'll be plucking away in no time. Plus, if you want to hear any of the numerous shamisen tracks that Atsu knows how to play, you can play them to your heart's content while resting at the campfire. While Ghost of Tsushima was an open-world game, the main plot was told in a relatively linear manner. While Ghost of Yotei isn't The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild by any means, it does, however, give the player a fair amount of control over which plot threads they want to pull on. As Atsu pursues the Yotei 6 in hopes of getting revenge for her family, there are usually many different places she can go to advance the plot. The main revenge quest is usually broken up into several discrete pieces depending on which member of the Yotei 6 you want to pursue. As a result, at any given time, you might have 3 or 4 main quest markers on the map. Usually, Ghost of Yotei will spend several hours being relatively open-ended, then come to a head for major plot beats and set locations, and then become open-ended once more. While it's not the kind of game that lets you go anywhere and do anything you want right from the start, it does allow players familiar with the structure of Ghost of Tsushima to have more freedom in how they want to deal with the Yotei 6. Ghost of Tsushima eventually added a gear loadout system to the game in the 1.1 update. However, it's turned off by default, so many players, myself included, didn't even know the option existed. Ghost of Yotei has fixed that problem, however, by giving players access to 3 gear loadout options that are available right from the beginning of the game. This allows players to fine-tune different elements of their armor and charm builds, or run with multiple different builds created for specific types of encounters. Accessible from the gear menu, you can easily switch between loadouts by pressing the square button and cycling to your preferred loadout. This option is especially helpful if you're looking to make the most out of Ghost of Yotei's excellent photo mode, as you can dedicate one of these slots to your most aesthetically pleasing sets for a quick picture. This helps avoid the otherwise tedious approach of having to change individual pieces back each time for combat once the photo shoot is done. Ghost of Yotei adds a lot of new weapons to Atsu's arsenal. In Ghost of Tsushima, Jin mostly stuck to using his katana as his primary weapon. However, Atsu has access to a whole slew of combat options. She can wield her katana, wield 2 katanas, wield a Yari spear, wield a Kusarigama, and wield the giant and powerful Odachi. Additionally, Atsu picks up a Tanegashima matchlock firearm to expand her long-range capacity beyond traditional short and long bows. Functionally, many of these new weapons operate in a similar way to Jin's various combat stances that allowed him to counter enemy attacks with various weapons. Atsu's arsenal introduces a similar game of rock, paper, scissors, though in this case it's more like dual katana, spear, Kusarigama. While Jin's combat stances were an interesting take on sword-driven combat, Ghost of Yotei expands on the combat offerings of its predecessor by introducing new enemy types and new ways to counter them with Atsu's gear. As you explore Ezo, you'll encounter your fair share of Ronin looking to cash in on the bounty that's been placed on Atsu's head. There are plenty of wandering enemies aligned with Lord Saito, similar to the various roaming factions in Ghost of Tsushima, but the groups of Ronin searching for Atsu pose a new challenge, as it can be difficult to discern who's a friend and who's a foe while out in the wilderness. As Atsu makes a name for herself while cutting her way to the Yotei 6, the world will get increasingly more dangerous. The bounty on Atsu's head goes up as you clear out strongholds and progress the story, so wandering Ronin who want the coin that comes with turning her in will start putting down traps in the overworld. As you get deeper into Ghost of Yotei, you'll need to keep an eye out for traps and Ronin laying in wait to ambush you. Combat has been notably expanded upon in Ghost of Yotei, and one of the most important new additions is disarming attacks. Now, if an enemy hits you with a yellow-tinted disarming attack, your weapon will go flying out of your hand, and you'll need to scramble to recover it. If you lose your weapon, you're not out of luck just yet, as Atsu can still punch her way through a combat encounter, but given the giant game of rock, paper, scissors that makes up much of Ghost of Yotei's combat, you'll be at a major disadvantage when dealing with enemies, so you'll want to grab it as soon as you can. Luckily, your enemies aren't the only ones with disarming attacks, as you can use them as well by unlocking the Unyo Strike in the attack branch of the Unyo skill tree. When an enemy is disarmed, they'll be wide open for attacks, and you can even find their lost weapon and throw it at another enemy for an easy kill. So those are 8 of the biggest changes in Ghost of Yotei from Ghost of Tsushima. While there are plenty of other smaller differences between the two, those are the ones that change the experience the most from game to game. For more on Ghost of Yotei and everything else, make sure to kick it with IGN.